My name is Michaela Thornton. As you guys know, everyone calls me Kella. I'm an instructional designer in the Center for Digital Education at the Olin Business School in Washington University in St. Louis. And we're just coming together to kind of talk a little bit about how you're doing, especially since you've just finished, for two of you, your first 2 weeks of classes, and for one of you, your first week of classes. You're all seasoned educators and researchers and scholars, but you're teaching during a pandemic, and so it's kind of a wild time to be an instructor and professor. And so we want to kind of have a chronicle to kind of showcase what we're doing, kind of a time capsule of pedagogy, if you will, during a very historical moment. What is one teaching strategy or learning technology, and you could do both if you want to, that you have found especially useful to you and your students?
One of the things that I kept thinking about over the summer was, how do I get students who are in the classroom and students who are not in the classroom to come into conversation together? And the question for me is kind of, how do you level the playing field to give everyone the opportunity to talk in the classroom? And through discussion with the folks at the Teaching and Learning Center here at WashU, I learned about a tool called Padlet. And Padlet allows for students to provide information on a written document. And I can put that directly into a breakout room in Zoom. And I can have teams that are both virtual and live working on the same document in real time to answer questions. So the first day of class, my question was, what is business communication? By asking the questions in Padlet initially, I could get students to see that they were starting out from a very different place. And then I could get them to think about how I was going to use the course to help them learn a set of strategies to help others make efficient, effective decisions. Padlet has worked really well for me.
So I think that is brilliant, because it kind of, one of the things I think that's really challenging in this high flex kind of situation is, how do you get people to interact when there's social distancing at play, and when people are, some may be online, some may be face to face, like how do you kind of bridge that communication gap? And so I think that's a really interesting way to do that.
The central challenge in my classes, for example, would be, I would say that it's bridging theory and practice, theory and application. That's the utmost challenge. And what we do with the students is that, so we would have 2 discussion sessions back to back in the schedule that focuses primarily on theory. And then the third class session is entirely application focused. So they're divided into teams. We have the online forum in Zoom, and teams present in the real-time mode. And what I usually do is that I would designate one of them as a co-host, and they would take control of the slides, and then the other people join in. So like my task is to take them a little bit out of their comfort zone, just to think about issues that we may have not talked about in class. Like, I see a lot of light bulbs going on. So that's what my approach is.
Actually, the first thing I can tell you came to my mind when I was designing the course, or the Canvas, and the accessibility, how a student can access and things could be clear for them, and feel comfortable with the Canvas, especially that they cannot see me physically, most of them. So I actually got advantage of the CDE videos to create the homepage. And for introduction video, and also the first steps the students should go to access to everything, syllabus, the course context, discussion board to introduce themselves. So I really enjoyed myself, and I'm sure my students, they have a very nice introduction, even some of them uploading the pictures, their hobbies, what they have done even during pandemic, and they were so engaged. I can tell you almost all of them participated in that, and I was also engaged to answer them, and I was using annotation a lot, such that online students also can see it, because it was not only for in-person students. sometimes, again, I learned the hints from CDE that I called students, online students, to say, hey, any questions? Are you with us? Engagement moderator was so good. Repeating the questions, and also that monitor in front of me helped me a lot. I was walking around and then see if there was a question. Students, online students also had a chance to ask questions. They could be heard in a class. Also repeating the question, I can tell you. Any questions in person or online, I was repeating their questions and I was sure that everything is good, thumbs up, or so I could see that connection between online, in person, and myself.
I'm just curious because what you're talking about too, Samira, of like that trial and error and learning on, on the job, but like also learning as you go. There's so many things that you could pick as like a technological lever. And so what's like your primary like criteria for like you just determining whether or not you're going to use something? Like how do you evaluate what's going to be useful for you?
I think for me, one of the big things has been this issue of making sure that everything's on a level playing field. I've been very concerned about whether students in the class or students outside of the class would feel like they were being preferentially treated. And although it's only the second week, I've already had students start doing a presentation. So I kept going back and forth in my mind whether it was better to have everybody videotape their presentations or whether it was better to have the students who could present live. And to be honest with you, one class I had to do it both ways. So, but I think that going forward, what I'll probably do is to ask everyone to record it ahead of time. I think it actually improves their performance and their learning because they're then practicing it several times before they ever get to the presentation. In fact, I've never had this happen before, but I've had students who said to me after class, now that we've talked about it a little bit in class, I don't think I did really well. Can I go ahead and upload a new assignment? I thought, sure, go right ahead. I'm happy to have you do the work all over again because I don't think it'll have a huge impact on their grade, but I do think it will have a huge impact on their learning. So that's been exciting for me.
So what I've observed is that people tend to do well in environments where they're having fun. And what I've noticed over the years is that the students, and like this especially pertains to the audience at WashU. People here tend to be fairly hungry for success, and it then spreads like wildfire. So what my job is to catch them succeed and help them realize that. But in marketing, it's a combination between science and art. So where there's art, there's always the possibility for being very creative and having a lot of fun. So that's whatever technology can support that and push it forward, I'm all for it. Those are my criteria.
For me, actually, I was trying to see if I am, instead of the students, what would I expect to see or hear or learn from my instructor. This was my job during summer, to simulate this a lot for myself. And I realized definitely clarity of the board or the monitor I'm going to see from home, how it should be. So I try to learn definitely how to work well with annotation and repeating. So yeah, this is actually, I can tell you, was my challenge.
So I'm just curious if you have any kind of ways of reminding yourself to be gentle in this process or to be, unafraid or have fun. Like, what are some of the things that you just kind of try to remind yourself as you're learning? Because a lot of us are having to redo and relearn how we teach.
Well, the question, here it's a great question. Like I tell my students, there is that, parable of the boiling frog. And the challenge is that, of course, most things that we encounter, most difficulties, they're not catastrophic, they're not revolutionary, they're very incremental. So, for example, if we need to make an adjustment or tweak certain things and make it better for everyone, and that's how we do it.
What's fun for me, and the reason I do teaching, is because I love to learn. And every time I interact with a new group of students, they pose new challenges. Every time I have to work with new technology, it gives me another opportunity to rethink what I'm doing. So there are many, many different lenses that I can use to think about what's the outcome I'm trying to achieve and what am I doing that's going to either help or hinder getting to that outcome. So for me, what I'm doing right now is probably the most fun I've had in a great while. It is incredibly challenging, but I like challenges. And so as long as I keep reminding myself that um, there is no perfect answer right now because we're all trying new things, and some of it may not work, but we're just trying. We're going to see what we can do. And I think some of what may happen is that we will continue to use these strategies going forward in ways that we had not anticipated. So that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, maybe just one thing I can add. So I was before the pandemic, I was getting used to come to school every day. So it was my office, my work. Then now, after staying home for some months and working online, no, I had challenge. Wow, it's gonna be difficult for me to go now on campus. No, I'm seeing that. Okay, now again, it's gonna go online or. So this is kind of the challenge. But I like, as Julia said, I like challenge and learning, adapting myself with new situations. So it's so much fun, I guess, for my view.
I think a lot of us are drawn to education because we get to consistently keep learning. And since everyone's kind of coming from a collective space of all learning together, might be different things, might be at different times, might be for different disciplines and different reasons, but that like there's an openness about that we're all learning something new. I think that oftentimes can really be not just eye-opening, but also innovative. And so I think I'm really excited to see that happen too. I want to thank you for your time. It's so good to hear a little bit about how things are going in your classrooms. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.